Never fear the sky. That's not what it's there for. So often we will look at certain celestial phenomenon and we can freak ourselves out. We can start thinking that the whole lot of all the bad things can happen. And yeah, it is the case that sometimes what we deem bad, well, it can happen. It's part of the world we've co-created here together. However, there are times when things not going as we had planned can actually work out greatly to our advantage, as is the case now. Nothing makes people freak out as much as a Mercury retrograde. We see it coming. We think, uh-oh, I can't do anything. Well, of course, that's not the case. But the wisdom of a Mercury retrograde is the chance to get honest with ourselves, to reflect, to go within, to look at how we're thinking about a thing, knowing that once Mercury goes direct, well, we just might see things very differently. And either way, we are going to be okay. The Mercury retrograde that starts this week on Thursday, the 26th of February, 2026. Well, this Mercury retrograde just might be one of the more fortunate Mercury retrogrades that I have seen in a while. A key characteristic of this Mercury retrograde is going to be this ongoing dance that Mercury has with Jupiter of supreme harmony. Mercury retrogrades can be uncanny in how it is people, places, things, situations pop up, how it is they represent themselves. And in the case of this Mercury retrograde, what shows up now might be even better than it was before. You know, some people like to say that opportunity only knocks once. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The universe is abundant. There is always more opportunity. It doesn't always look exactly as you thought it was going to, and yet very often opportunities come again and again and again. And that truth will make itself that much more evident under the light of this Mercury retrograde season. Those opportunities that come back around this time, well, they look different, better. They are more magnificent, more prosperous, or more promising than what it was that presented itself to us before. And yet Mercury is still retrograde, meaning that we don't want to jump all in, do brand new stuff, especially related to contracts and agreements we might reach. But if you have to do it, well, then you've got to trust your life. And the great thing is with a Mercury retrograde like this, even if we find ourselves starting brand new chapter, knowing that Mercury is retrograde, those new chapters, we think they're one way on the surface, they might end up being very different. And yet they could just end up being way better than anything we planned for ourselves. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of February 22nd, 2026. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. Choose Your Tuition Rate ends this week. You have days as the week begins to choose your tuition rate over at synchronicityuniversity.com to learn from living legends and big dogs in astrology and tarot. We are talking Stephen Forrest, Gemini Brett, Melissa Sanova, these other incredible astrologers you've seen on my channel before, and of course myself as well. Brand new classes are starting this March only at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links below. I've so been looking forward to talking to you this week. I am about ready to sweep. So what do I mean by that? We are going to take a sweeping perspective. We're going to be looking at some history today, especially in the context of a very big moment that we had. For the purpose of this historical exploration, I am going to be focusing in on the global north while recognizing that, of course, there are histories and stories and intellectual developments and accomplishments that took place around the globe. We have wisdom available to us from around the globe that goes way back. Culturally, and how the sky is reflecting this, it is the arrest of Prince Andrew, or former Prince Andrew of England. Now, if you are not very familiar with English culture, British culture, especially if you have like very strong American sensibilities, you might not be realizing what a very big deal this is. And it goes beyond just surface level power. It goes so much deeper than that. And we knew that Saturn conjunct Neptune would bring with it a reset, right? It's a big, great reset, as it's being called, at 0 degrees of Aries. But what is being reset? That's what I want to touch on here, or at least explore with you. And in order for us to really understand the significance, how important this conjunction of Saturn and Neptune is, we actually have to look at Saturn conjunct Pluto. Very powerful energies we began this decade with. Now, while the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto themselves takes place about every 35 to 38 years, depending on the larger cycle at play. Despite that, in the sign of Capricorn, that is a lot more rare for that to occur. And I'm going to take us back to the Protestant Reformation, which took place about 500 years ago. And on the surface, it might just look like some, societal, cultural thing, but it went so much deeper than that. If you think back, right, there was a time in Europe in particular when books were written by hand, and it was hard to get literally your hands on books. And it was really only for very elite people to read, the priests as well. They were the ones who were actually writing things out. And that was a world where we had people interpreting what it is that the Bible was saying, for example. And this allowed great power to be concentrated, especially in the Catholic Church. I told you we were going to sweep here, right? We're going to get nerdy here. And at the time, that worldview that allowed those set of circumstances to occur, it also made the priests and the kings and the queens to be representatives of God on earth. They were the embodiment of God. And so what happens? Well, the printing press is invented, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier, a lot cheaper to get books out there and to get a lot of books out there. And you get more people reading for themselves, learning how to read, but also actually reading. And what's one of the first things that they read, especially in Europe? It is the Bible. And people are reading the Bible and they're hearing what it is that the priests are saying certain passages mean, but they are reading it and thinking, well, I think it actually means something else. I think it could mean this. And the fact that any ordinary person could feel that they could read the word of God and decide for themselves what it means, this was blasphemous under a certain worldview. But what this was a restructuring of one's relationship with God itself. God became something that wasn't just out there, but something that you could develop a more personal relationship with, a friendship with, if you will. And this idea of individuals being equal, it really does start here. It starts with people saying, you know what, I can read this and decide for myself what it means. And this is where we get what's called the Protestant Reformation. And the Protestant Reformation had a lot of reasons that it took place. One of the reasons was that people were really frustrated with certain political matters of the Catholic Church. But putting that aside for a second, when we look at the larger philosophical, societal implication, we get this conjunction in the first part of the 1500s of Saturn and Pluto. And it is almost to the day of Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn that we get this very iconic, very important moment of Martin Luther stapling his theses on the door of the Catholic Church, of the main Catholic Church there. And this was a really big deal because this was a huge declaration that said, essentially, no, I'm reading this book and I am realizing that what it says is actually not what you're telling us it says. Without the Protestant Reformation, we cannot have the toppling of kings like we found centuries later with the French Revolution and the American Revolution. These revolutions could not occur were it not for what we call the Protestant Reformation, were it not for the fact that more people could read than ever before, and more people were, as a result of reading, changing their relationship with God itself. Now, every few centuries, historically speaking, there was this ball of power, right? We can imagine a ball, and it would get passed around the world. And in different historical periods, certain areas of the planet were sort of on the precipice of really what was advancing the entirety of humanity. This was a larger trend we saw, and this ball just sort of gets passed along from one culture to another to another. I'm thinking about like many, many millennia ago. We get ancient Mesopotamia, then we get the Egyptians, and then we get the Greeks, and then we get the Arabs, and then we get Europe in the Renaissance, and then we get the US, right? So we get this ball of culture, and who is leading world culture really? And what does that actually mean? It means who is deciding what power is? Who is defining what power is? And so much of it is rooted in who it is that is deciding, nothing less than who God is, I would argue. And so now we have this huge moment. It changes the world. And I remember telling you guys, especially in 2020, look, we've had this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. And this is going to bring with it a huge shift. It is going to change our understanding. It is the very beginning, a seed moment that is going to be nothing less than changing our understanding of who has the power and who embodies power. Who is special, who is ordained, and who no longer is. If you have not really become familiar with British culture, because I did live there for a year when I was in university, and I will tell you, I remember a dear professor of mine, Patrick Curry, so brilliant a person, born in Canada. So he was my fellow Canadian, but he'd lived in England since he was 18 years old. And I remember saying to him that, I have been really shocked at how different the culture here is. Like, I thought because I spoke the language, it would be all easy, but I had a huge adjustment to the culture. There was culture shock going on for me. And he made this comment, this saying that sort of can be encapsulated by saying these are two cultures separated by the same language, is how he understood this contrast between Canadian culture and British culture. And Canada is still part of the Commonwealth, and it is even more dramatic a difference when we look at American sensibilities versus British sensibilities. In Britain, this idea of caste, of classism, it is still there. There's been a lot of progress. There's a lot of forces there that desire, that affirm greater equality among the masses. That certainly is a big part of the law there now as well. But the place is seeped in this understanding of hierarchies. And it is unconsciously deeply rooted in a hierarchy of ultimately who it is that is closer to God and who is further away from God. Now, nobody there would consciously say that or even consciously be very aware of that, but that really is it. This idea that certain people are better because of birth. Now, this is the antithesis of what we would call the American psyche, American values, because in the United States, and one of the great gifts that that worldview has given us around the world is that you are judged by what you have done. Now, even that is problematic to some people, and I completely understand that. You alone should be worthy as you are. But at the same time, this idea of people like sort of downplaying their parentage, downplaying their families, downplaying the fact that they're Nepo babies, for example, like this isn't really a thing in some parts of the world. In some parts of the world, it really is like, look who my dad is, look how amazing my dad is. So yeah, I'm amazing too because my dad is amazing. Whereas in the US, there's this worldview that's like, I did it. I made it happen. And this emphasis on being proud of the things that you have power over, that you control, like what kind of person you become. And yes, because it is the US, what it is that you achieve. Now, that whole notion is rooted in the Protestant work ethic, what's called the Protestant work ethic, which is the foundation of so much of American philosophy, I would argue. Now, think about this, because this is really huge in the context of the fact that Saturn and Neptune conjuncted at 0 degrees of Aries, a world point. The last time that we had this conjunction at 0 of Aries, because these two planets conjunct as well about every 35, 36 years or so, always in a different sign. But at 0 degrees of Aries, the last time was in the year, I kid you not, 4,361 BCE. Okay, so we're looking at about 6,000 years ago. And what is it that happened? What is it that is the big thing about what happened right around then? It is what we call the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is considered one of the oldest, if not the oldest, surviving work of long-form literature. And some people put its date as recent as about 4,000 years ago, but most believe that this is a work that is around 6,000 years old, which puts it right in that region of the last time we had this conjunction of Neptune and Saturn. And this becomes important because this becomes foundational to the stories that we tell ourselves and about ourselves. This becomes foundational because myths are the stories of the human experiences projected onto the gods. And we see that illustrated here. So human beings have existed for about 250,000 years or so, right? And we had cave drawings going way back to like 40,000 years, 30,000 years, where we see people documenting the sky and connecting celestial phenomenon to what is happening here on Earth. Even earlier than that. So we start seeing this documentation of the sky, but if we look at those cave drawings of 30,000 years ago, 40,000, 50,000 years ago, what we see instead are like what would likely occur if people were sitting in the complete dark and listening to drum beats, and what kind of images would come in their mind, like dots and things like that. That's what we see documented. And then slowly, over thousands of years, we start to see human beings document the sky, document the stars, and look at what that means for us on Earth. But the very first really expansive documented text comes from ancient Sumer, which is present-day Iraq. And this is the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is where we find the name Inanna. So a lot of people know that name Inanna because she is one of these like everlasting goddesses and sort of formed the template of Lilith. Inanna is what she was called in ancient Sumer. Later on in ancient Babylonia, we get Ishtar. These are the oldest names we have documented for a goddess. After that, after ancient Sumer came ancient Mesopotamia, came ancient Egypt, came ancient Greek, and so on. So think about these energies happening in context of each other. On the one hand, something that represents a leap in human consciousness, because each one of these things represents a leap in human consciousness. Human consciousness had to leap for us to go from cave drawings that were just dots and stick people to cave drawings that were of celestial phenomenon and people. That was a leap of consciousness. It is a leap of consciousness to then take those cave drawings out of the cave and actually write out a story. And that's what we find in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, let's bring it back to today now with this arrest of the former Prince Andrew. First of all, for somebody to be a former prince, a former king, a former queen, just that notion would have been unheard of not that long ago in our human consciousness, in our human history. But the fact that we could be in a place where this person who historically has represented the embodiment of God, being able to be treated like anybody else, this is a big deal. This is a huge reset in our understanding of ultimately ourselves. Okay, now let's bring it back to today again. Because I'm a nerd, right? I can really go very big picture, I know. But when we bring it back to today, this is a huge moment. And on the surface, it looks like a moment, it looks cultural, but it reaches so much deeper than that because it is exemplifying something about our changing relationship to nothing less than the divine, nothing less than who we understand the divine to be within us. And that step towards greater equality on this level is going to have ripple effects that we are going to feel for a very long time. However, whereas in the past, it might take another 500 or 1,000 years for us to really get that ripple effect, right? And this isn't the first time, let me be clear, that we've had a royal, like I said, being prosecuted, being even executed as well, right? We see that with the, as I said, American Revolution, the French Revolution. These are not possible without bringing these people closer to earth, making them less a representative of the divine. But consider that all growth is exponential. Now, this idea comes from Ray Kurzweil, who is a futurist. He's not an astrologer, he's an inventor. And he said this very thing, all growth is exponential. What used to take us 1,000 years to evolve towards now takes us less and less and less time. And we can really see this technologically. It took us such a long time as a collective for our collective consciousness to invent a pen, like even just a pen. If you read Plato's Symposium, there is this whole argument in there that people are having about the fact that there's this brand new technology and it is going to do all those awful things that people say anytime there's a new technology, right? It's going to rot our brains, it's going to kill our memory. That technology that they are debating is the pen. It is going from an oral culture to a written culture. The massive big energies of big shifts are kicking into high gear this year, and it starts with Saturn and Neptune both meeting at 0 degrees of Aries. But once we get into the summer, particularly once we get into July, and we have the great sextile energy, and we have Pluto trine Uranus in air, plus Neptune in Aries, part of this larger configuration together, that is when we are going to find ourselves evolving, growing so quickly. And that is when the fuller implications of a few things become that much more evident, including equality, including emphasizing the power of mind. Cultures where air energy is very dominant in the natal charts of those countries, these tend to be countries that emphasize education. They emphasize a greater sense of equality among all people. And access to education in particular has been considered a great equalizer. It is going to be fascinating to see how we, you and I, participate in the unfolding of this whole new understanding of a world that we are stepping into. But it isn't that we are stepping into a new world, it's that our consciousness is ready for that. Our consciousness is being mirrored by what is happening in our external environment. Our consciousness is being mirrored by what's happening astrologically, what's happening culturally, and what's happening within our hearts is ultimately going to guide so many of the choices we make and what it is that we consider to be good and what it is that we consider to be not good. But what we know is historically, this aspect of Pluto and Uranus trine is not so rare. It happens about every 4 decades or so, sometimes more rarely. But when it occurs, it always has represented some technology that ultimately ends up being this very powerful presence. And we've seen this especially since Pluto was discovered. This energy is so remarkable that in many ways we might not see what's coming until it is here. I think that, and as I've been saying to you, I know I've been saying this for a lot of years, I think that artificial intelligence, AI, is going to be a big part of this. Already we are in a place where we don't know what's real when we watch it on AI. Like some of us are able to make those distinctions, but AI is getting better and better, and we don't know what's real. We are moving into a world that is going to become more and more niche, more and more individualized, where we are just not exposed to any kind of information that we don't want to be exposed to, is what it's really going to come down to. And as the world becomes more and more niche, what we're also going to find is more and more what we would call micro celebrities, right? We see this more and more than ever before. There are very few people that we can say everybody knows, but there are a lot of people that some people know, and they might be really big fans of, and they might really be into what it is that they do. And I know I have friends and fans like that. I thank you guys so much. But we're seeing more and more of these kinds of people, micro celebrities. I'm using that as an example. But it's this idea of how niche the world is getting more and more. Now, I want to actually connect this idea to the recent halftime show with Bad Bunny. I have seen people online feeling so emotional about this, people crying about this. I have cried, I'll be honest with you, I've cried. I actually cried in my interview that I did with Hannah Terajura because she was asking me about it and how I felt about it. And it was this huge moment. And part of what made it so important to so many people really was representation. It was people seeing themselves, feeling like they were included or feeling like they were seen, and how powerful that was. And I could feel how much that meant to so many people that I have cared about, people I've loved, people who've made my life better as a result of me knowing them. And part of what made it possible for me to know them is because I learned this language as an adult, Spanish, and it just changed me. Like it changed my world. I had no idea how small my world was before I was ready to be open to the world. And so this idea of how representation can be so profoundly healing, I have seen it in so many ways, but of course, this big cultural example we see. And so more and more people are going to be looking for themselves. They're going to be looking for connection. This is all that air energy that we have coming up this summer that's going to amplify so much more. And we might not realize it right now, but it really does come down to, what is it to be included? It is to feel connected to something greater than yourself. And what does that really come down to? It comes down to being able to recognize the self. And what is it that we desire to recognize? It is nothing less than the God within us. Human relationships are so powerful. We are essentially social animals. I am convinced of it. I really realized this when I got a dog, Biggie, and I saw like he knew who were people and who were dogs. And he had a whole other reaction to dogs than he did to people. He would see another dog and he would want to go, he would want to hang out, he would want to connect. He understood that these are his people. He was seeking out his people. And so it is for us, but it's not necessarily anything superficial. It's who resonates, right, within you. We're able to see ourselves in more and more different types of people than ever before. I've been to so many countries. I've been to 50 countries. And I will tell you, I have in every single place seen people who I felt were like me in some way, where I saw something of myself in them. But there's something about intimate relationships that can be very powerful. And it is intimacy itself that exposes us in ways to these very deep parts of our psyche that we didn't always know that were there, the vulnerable parts, the hurt parts. It is in intimate relationship when we really allow ourselves to be known more deeply that we risk rejection, that the fear kicks in that much more, and the layers of that fear show up. And there's something about, according to Freud, intimate relationships that also evoke these very deep feelings that go all the way back to when we were babies and nothing less than that. And our relationship with our parents ends up being evoked when it is that we really allow ourselves to be known by another, when we desire to know another. But we're seeing this play out in more ways that are removed and more about the parasocial relationship. It's more about the projections than ever before. So what is that going to mean for humanity? How does that rewire us and how we connect to each other? We don't realize it right now, but this moment, this member of a royal family being arrested, being tried, again, not the first time that this has happened, but this is a remarkable phenomenon that 500 years ago would have been unheard of. But now here we are. This is how far we've come. And ultimately, we've come a really long way in our relationship with ourselves, which is what this is ultimately reflecting. Aries energy is the self. It is the individual and the power of the individual. And whether this person likes it or not, whether Andrew likes it or not, he is being treated as an individual, and we are collectively witnessing it. And it is powerful. It is changing us, or rather, the change has been a long time coming, but we've now manifested it externally with this huge cultural moment. It's going to mean a lot for countries. It's going to mean a lot for the monarchy, yes, but it's going to mean a lot for the world. It's going to mean a lot for our own understanding of ourselves. Boy, was I ever like dying to nerd out with you guys. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to really get into this because this is so big. So I'm glad I got to do that. But now let's bring it back to just the context of this week, because this week Mercury goes retrograde on Thursday. And this Mercury retrograde, as I said in the intro, it's going to be trining Jupiter. That is a key characteristic of this retrograde. It is taking place entirely in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces is about our compassion, our sense of unity, our sense of bliss, and what bliss actually requires of us, what it requires us to surrender, to let go, what we owe each other, particularly in terms of what we're willing to sacrifice for each other. Now, going back to Bad Bunny, because I think if ever there was a Piscean moment, it was him with his stellium in Pisces putting on this presentation. But what I spoke about with Hannah was that you could really see in his face, like when he was starting his performance and throughout his performance, he was doing this to give. He was doing this for others. He wasn't there really for himself. He understood how important this moment was going to be for so many people. And that's what he wanted it to be. He wanted it to be this moment, this catalyst of healing. And that is part of why every choice he made from every frame in this whole presentation, it was determined by this understanding. And you can really see it in him. So it's a very powerful thing to witness. But I do think it is this Mercury retrograde. And what retrograde's inviting us to go within. Now, what is it going to mean for us? And I don't just mean this performance, I mean the notion of being there in service of others, getting the ego out of the way so that we just might give from a place of understanding the importance of even the small moments of giving. Our attention is a form of giving. Our own energetic response, energetic wishes is a form of giving. I had a deep friend, a very important friend of mine, reach out to me and say that he has an illness. And it was surprising, but thankfully it's been caught early enough. So we're all very hopeful. But my friend was like, okay, I'm activating the prayer network because I believe in prayer. And so I'm just contacting everybody to say, put your prayers out there for me, please. Let's get some good vibes going here. And that is a very Piscean thing, but it is a powerful thing. Every sign has its superpower. And for Pisces, that's it. It is faith that is very powerful. Prayer is very powerful. And meditation is very powerful as well. And I think that's going to be part of this Mercury retrograde. It's going to invite us to go deeper, but to make sure that those prayers that we direct onto others, we also direct on ourselves. And this has different layers to it because consider this as well. It isn't just that prayers are powerful, the energy we align with is powerful. Yes, there is an understanding of that that has to do with compassion, which is a beautiful thing. But our jealousy is powerful. Our resentments of others are powerful. Our fears are powerful. You know, Bad Bunny ended his show by saying, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. But in my mind, I find myself changing that to the only thing more powerful than fear is love. This idea of fear and hate are essentially the same thing. In fact, all of these emotions like fear and anger and resentments, they're ultimately all rooted in fear. So that's one way to understand them. But it is a powerful thing to consider how our own fears, our own longing, as poetic as it can be, as addictive as it can be, what is it actually doing to us? And how is it that it pushes away what it is that we truly want to be, to embody, to have, or to do? The prayers we sent out to others, the wishes we sent out to others, ultimately, this is why the ancient teachings say we're doing it to ourselves. And I think that's going to be a big lesson of this Mercury retrograde season. I think there are people who are aching to be in a space of love and compassion after such intense energies of fear that have been there. Now, it is also not lost on me that under the light of this Mercury going retro on Thursday, on Friday, we've got this really big energy at play, and this is going to be Mars square Uranus. Now, this happens about once a year, and it is always a moment that represents some measure of discomfort. It is said that you might want to be careful of outbursts or accidents even as well. So it's not necessarily going to show up that way, but it's something to be mindful of because the energies can be very erratic, but as quickly as they come on is as quickly as they can dissipate as well. But yes, Mars is about the frustrations we have, the anger we have, the sort of automatic lower chakra responses we might have, the more primal responses we might have. And with a Uranus square, they really feel like they come out of nowhere. And so we might surprise ourselves by how we react to a given moment or a given situation. We might surprise ourselves by where it was the last person we expected to have a certain outburst, to have a certain reaction. That's what we end up seeing here. And ultimately, it's about how we surprise ourselves by what is within us that tends to come to the forefront now. But if we're not ready or willing to even see what is in us, then how are we going to decide if it works for us or not? How are we going to use it to our advantage or not? It is our awareness that makes it possible to evolve an energy. And I think that's going to be part of the opportunity here with such heightened compassion energy at play. At the same time, the need for that compassion is going to feel downright jarring. Consider this as well, if all of this wasn't enough. It is going to be Mars that, while it is square Uranus, is going to be on the eclipse point. This is where we had the eclipse last week. And so the eclipse last week was at 28 of Aquarius, squaring Uranus. And Mars at the end of the week will be at 28 of Aquarius, squaring Uranus. This is the eclipse point, which means in some ways, this is going to be more adrenaline or a furtherance to whatever was happening in our lives as early as last week with that eclipse that took place. What was that eclipse message meant to be for you? What did it awaken within you? What did you realize about you? And where was it that there might have been a twist and a turn, but a truth that showed up that meant things had to change? They could not be what they were before anymore, because now there's a whole other perception, this whole other way to see it. It is that very thing that was evoked, that was prodded, that was poked, that is going to take on greater intensity, that is going to step up in terms of how erratic it feels, for some how frustrating it feels, but it also holds the potential, because remember, with eclipses, they are always about aligning us with a path of the nodes. And the path of the nodes is always about greater love and greater wisdom. It is always about alignment with soul contracts and soul promises we make to ourselves and to others. And as far off as we go from that path is as jarring as it is to be brought back to that path. And so this is powerful truth and realization energy, and it's going to take on a greater intensity. It's going to step up a notch as we find a personal understanding, a personal truth within us at this time. It is meaningful though, because Mars is ultimately about helping us to own our power, to recognize where we have power and where we don't, and to focus on what our power is. With Mars, I actually think of Mars as representing the serenity affirmation. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. These are 3 points of power that perfectly encapsulate what Mars is about. And Mars square Uranus is going to ask us to make this distinction in an instant. And however we have to make that distinction, it is in some way connected to the eclipse energy of last week. As much as Mars represents our more instinctual, primal side, Mercury is our intellectual side. It represents the higher chakras. And you add Venus into the mix, it is by elevating the energy, not necessarily just responding, but allowing ourselves to understand that we also welcome in greater ease and greater love. Talking it out or allowing ourselves to understand can dissipate what otherwise can be energy that's very frustrating. A moment that feels like it gets us angry can be understood differently as a result of communication. It's not always directly with that person who might have done the thing that made you angry, but it is by communication or your own understanding, your own rationalizing, that you're able to allow enough love and ease and softness to come in. And from there, you get to decide on the next best steps for you. But what this affirms to me as well with this Mercury retrograde, it really is that even better is on the horizon. and that this Mercury retrograde, not only is it going to be luckier than we've seen other Mercury retrograde seasons be, but it is also going to be an energy that is sweeter, that is lighter than we might expect a Mercury retrograde energy to be. All of this is furthered by the fact that at the very beginning of the week, I know I jumped right in, I got real nerdy with you, but look, we start this week with Venus, Trine, Jupiter. This is one of the more romantic energies at play. It is an abundant energy. Venus is in the sign of Pisces. She's really good in the sign of Pisces. She loves being in the sign of Pisces. She's lush in the sign of Pisces, able to operate at her best. Jupiter is lush in Cancer, able to operate at its very best. And so both of these planets are strong in the sky now, and they are speaking to each other in supreme harmony, which means there's a lot of energy of healing, of universal love on offer, but also, romantic love as well, should we choose to use this energy in that way. This is fortunate. It is lucky. But remember, this Mercury retrograde is going to bring luck around again and again as part of its larger characteristic in the weeks ahead. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. I am going to say, I love the energy of, I'm actually going to put it down to the fact that last week we did have Neptune meeting Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries. Actually, that is energy that we ended last week with. We're starting this week with that energy as well. So much is so big that is happening right now in the sky. This Mercury retrograde is set to be a really more positive energy than it otherwise might be. But for all of that, we are in great reset territory right now. We are beginning again in important ways. And if you don't know what that looks like just yet, that's okay. But understand it starts within. It starts with your relationship with yourself and redefining higher power for yourself as well. What's happening now is nothing less than reconfiguring our personal relationship with the divine, with higher power, and what that higher power is going to look like for us. And my hope is that more and more people than ever before ensure that that higher power is guided by, rooted in, and defined by greater love and greater wisdom as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. And because of an editing error last week, you didn't get to see favorite comments, so you're going to get double this weekend. Here are some of my most favorite comments as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for your love, for your comments, for your virtual hugs. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for your thumbs up, all of it. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University is proud to present some absolutely incredible astrologers, and you've got just a few days left to choose your tuition rate. Next week, brand new classes are starting. There's so much to look forward to here. Talk about legends and big dogs and superstars in astrology and tarot and more. I am going to start with our incredible speaker series. This is one not to miss. And that is because it is going to include an absolute living legend, the one and only big dog astrologer we are so fortunate to get, the one and only Stephen Forrest. I love Stephen so much. He is brilliant. He is generous. He is just an expert teacher, the author of like 17 books. He's just such an awesome human being. And he is going to be presenting as part of the March 2026 speaker series on right now. Choose your tuition rate. There is nowhere else on the planet you are going to learn from the one and only Stephen Forrest for as low as just $5. That is amazing, learning from Stephen Forrest at that rate. And so, yes, please do join us. But look, stay for the fact that we've got all these other incredible speakers, including the legendary big dog tarot author, magic author, the one and only Melissa Sanova. She is the author of Kitchen Table Tarot and Kitchen Table Magic. She has taught with us before, and she is going to be teaching on magic when you're going through difficult times and what kind of magic you might need. It is so fascinating. It was wonderful talking to her about this very topic where she gave some advice, and she's going to be diving into it that much more deeper, helping you to awaken the magic within you. And we have got some other favorites that you have seen on my channel before. I know you love these brilliant astrologers, including Hannah Tanajura. I love Hannah. She is just so brilliant. She is so ready. She brings so much heart to her evolutionary astrology. I met her because she is a student of Maurice Fernandez, and he highly recommended her. And boy, was he not kidding. She is just a standout astrologer. I taught with her at the Omega Institute as well. So she's going to talk about Jupiter in Leo, which is coming up really soon in June of 2026. So in just a few months, she's going to help us to look ahead at this incredible big move of Jupiter into a brand new sign. Alejandro Ruiz is one of my most favorite up-and-coming astrologers, I will tell you. Now, he is into traditional astrology and Islamic astrology, and he's just got such an amazing grasp of the lots in particular. And so if you saw my interview with him, he went through what's called the lot of nemesis, and he's going to be teaching more on that and the lot of victory and how these lots work together. I'll tell you, after that conversation I had with him in the interview I did with him, I have started using lots in my practice, and they are so helpful. They have been so useful, and clients and students have found them to be such a valuable tool. So he's going to help you to dive into their understanding that much more deeply. And Jill Loftus of Nui Astrology, you've seen her on my channel so many times. You've seen her at Synchronicity University so many times. I love her. I love her interpretations. She is so heart-centered, wisdom-centered, and just a brilliant astrologer, which is why, like, when I need somebody to help me to fill in, she's right there. She helps out, and she just brings such wonderful insight rooted in greater love and greater wisdom as well. So she's coming back to Synchronicity University. I'm looking forward to celebrating all these amazing astrologers and leaders in their field, superstars in their field. Only at synchronicityuniversity.com. You've got days left to choose your tuition rate. Choose your tuition rate will end this week. This is the time to log on to synchronicityuniversity.com and confirm your enrollment. I look forward to seeing you in class. Synchronicity University is proud to present the one and only Gemini Brett, superstar big dog astrologer. Gemini Brett, you've got just a few days left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, to learn from Gemini, an unheard of rate from which to learn from Gemini. And he is going to be teaching something very special called sacred geometry. Sacred geometry, the first time we are going to offer this at Synchronicity University. And boy, is this so special. It is by understanding sacred geometry that you end up being that much more fully grounded in aspects and understanding why it is and how it is that certain aspects show up the way they do. They are experienced the way that they are. He is known for diving very deep into the symbol and giving you this reverence, this spiritual grounding that is connected to sky at the same time. And there's a reason that he has just risen to be this superstar in our field. He is one of our most popular astrologers at Synchronicity University. So, yeah, literally at the end of this week, Choose Your Tuition Rate will end. So this is the time to sign up right now to learn sacred geometry, such a special topic. Only at synchronicityuniversity.com, links below. Synchronicity University is proud to present me. I am coming back to my own school, and I'm so excited about this. And I am bringing two programs, two of them. This is going to be so much fun. So I am going to start with Past Lives in the Astrology Chart, Part 4. So this is the fourth of a 6-part series. You can take it as a standalone, but if you've taken the previous classes, that's great. We'll build on it. If you want, you can have those previous courses as add-ons available right now at synchronicityuniversity.com. As part of this moment where you can sign up for as low as just $5 a class, you can get those instant downloads for as low as just $5 each as well. And that'll help catch you up. But again, this can be a standalone, and we are going to look at the 4th house and the 8th house and Neptune aspects over the course of 5 weeks. And so after this, once we get to next term, we are going to look at past lives in love in astrology. And we're going to dive into that much more deeply over the course of 2 courses. So yeah, now here we are. I know so many of you love having this grounding in past lives when you look at the astrology chart. So this is the time to sign up now over at synchronicityuniversity.com, links below. Synchronicity University is proud to present me. Here's my second course I'm going to be teaching at Synchronicity University this March, and it is a very special workshop series. So it is a little bit different, but I'm so excited. This is brand new, never before taught. I am going to dive very deep into these sun signs, one at a time. And with the sun signs, we are going to explore brand new mythologies that I have never shared before, not on my channel or anywhere else. So this is brand new material. And we are going to start with the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And as you dive into these individual classes, you are likely to feel that much more connected to an understanding of how really your life is myth. You are living mythology in real time. And I love reminding people of that. That's such a big part of why I do what I do, to help you to see your life as a sacred story. There's something very human about understanding how it is that these divinely inspired stories, these motifs that show up around the world, how you are living them right now, and how it is that they're helping you to become more of you, a version of you that you really, really like, that feels more like you. That's what the sun sign represents. So that's what we're going to focus on. But of course, once you understand the signs, you're able to apply that knowledge to any planet in the chart. But whether you are a brand spanking new beginner, whether you are a seasoned student, or anywhere in between, you'll be able to jump in and grasp these lessons that much more. So again, this is a workshop series. We are starting with the fire signs, one class on Aries, another on Leo, and another on Sagittarius. This is the time to sign up, because it is going to be at the end of the week that the Choose Your Tuition Rate will be done. And it is going to be Choose Your Tuition Rate, $25 for the entire series, the 3-part series, only at synchronicityuniversity.com. I really look forward to sharing this brand new understanding, brand new lessons with you. It's going to be very exciting, and I look forward to meeting you in class. So again, synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. And a very limited number of consultations are now available with me and Andy of Wise Ass Astrology over on my website, nadiyashah.com/consultations. That is where you can check out our calendars, choose the time slot that you want, make your payment, fill out a form, let us know what you want us to know in advance, and you will automatically be sent a Zoom link which will secure your time slot. So I hope to meet you in consultation. Consultation slots do fill up really fast. Thank you, everybody out there, for your trust in me and Andy of Wise Ass Astrology. And so there are a limited number of dates available now for March and April. So you can learn a lot more about consultations and secure yours now at nadiyashah.com. Links are in the description below. Now, I do want to take special note to say thank you to friend and fan Aubrey. She sent me some lovely original art prints, and I will put them up, but I'll also show you. This is one of my favorites. Look at that. It's like the tarot card, right? Just a very free, lovely person, swinging, trusting. I love this so, so very much. And it very much fits with where I am in terms of feeling like I'm connecting to that Fool card that much more, like just trusting life and being so open to it all. And so I absolutely love this. And it really reminds me of, when I was in Ecuador, and I was in Quito in particular, and you actually get to climb this volcano, and I climbed the volcano. I'll try to remember to put some video of it up here. Anyways, they had a swing just like this, and it was kind of a little bit off the cliff, but you knew you were safe, right? So you didn't have to have a belt or anything. That's what this reminds me of. It was a very special experience. I really love it. And then here we get this like water goddess with the clouds happening, and she's singing. So I absolutely love this also. Such beautiful art, whimsical, and so beautifully packaged. So thank you so much for these lovely artworks. I'll put them up on my wall somewhere. Now, I'm not trying to like court gifts. I mean, you being here is a massive gift. So thank you so much for that. But I am occasionally contacted, and people do ask me about sending me something, and I thank you so much. And I will thank you whether it's on social media, in my Instagram stories, or here in my videos. Sometimes I do that here as well, but it's usually over on social media. And thank you. Thank you for being such a lovely, generous people out there. But for all of that, really, you being here is a massive blessing in my life. And I thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. Stay tuned now for short horoscopes coming up right now. I'm sending you big hugs. And yeah, remember, Synchronicity University, this is the time. Sign up now. I look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Never fear the sky. That's not what it's there for. So often we will look at certain celestial phenomenon and we can freak ourselves out. We can start thinking that the whole lot of all the bad things can happen. And yeah, it is the case that sometimes what we deem bad, well, it can happen. It's part of the world we've co-created here together. However, there are times when things not going as we had planned can actually work out greatly to our advantage, as is the case now. Nothing makes people freak out as much as a Mercury retrograde. We see it coming. We think, uh-oh, I can't do anything. Well, of course, that's not the case. But the wisdom of a Mercury retrograde is the chance to get honest with ourselves, to reflect, to go within, to look at how we're thinking about a thing, knowing that once Mercury goes direct, well, we just might see things very differently. And either way, we are going to be okay. The Mercury retrograde that starts this week on Thursday, the 26th of February, 2026. Well, this Mercury retrograde just might be one of the more fortunate Mercury retrogrades that I have seen in a while. A key characteristic of this Mercury retrograde is going to be this ongoing dance that Mercury has with Jupiter of supreme harmony. Mercury retrogrades can be uncanny in how it is people, places, things, situations pop up, how it is they represent themselves. And in the case of this Mercury retrograde, what shows up now might be even better than it was before. Some people like to say that opportunity only knocks once. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The universe is abundant. There is always more opportunity. It doesn't always look exactly as you thought it was going to, and yet very often opportunities come again and again and again. And that truth will make itself that much more evident under the light of this Mercury retrograde season. Those opportunities that come back around this time, well, they look different, better. They are more magnificent, more prosperous, or more promising than what it was that presented itself to us before. And yet Mercury is still retrograde, meaning that we don't want to jump all in, do brand new stuff, especially related to contracts and agreements we might reach. But if you have to do it, well, then you've got to trust your life. And the great thing is with a Mercury retrograde like this, even if we find ourselves starting brand new chapter, knowing that Mercury is retrograde, those new chapters, we think they're one way on the surface, they might end up being very different. And yet they could just end up being way better than anything we planned for ourselves. Now, how this Mercury retrograde will speak to you in your sign depends on your sun, moon, and rising. Take all three into consideration, synthesize the information to make it unique to you, and there are a lot more horoscopes available right now over on my YouTube channel, Nadiya_Shah, and in the superstar space at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, the entire Mercury retrograde takes place in the sign just before yours. This is about closing karmic ties, ending karmic chapters, but also karmic blessings. And some of the best stuff that you thought was gone, the last thing on your radar that you thought could come back around, it just might be that stuff that you least expected. And when you least expected, that just might come back around. Now, this is profoundly healing. And where it is, there is a difficult circumstance, a situation that you want to allow to bring to a healthy close so that you can live that much more fully today. Well, it is going to be this Mercury retrograde that is going to help you in that over time. Taurus, friendships, group alliances, if anybody is likely to be walking around and all of a sudden you run into the last person you expected to run into, someone you were a friend with before, someone who was an acquaintance even, or someone that you were connected to through a group endeavor or project, it certainly is you now. It becomes a very strong possibility. So be open to synchronicity, because as much as I like to say it's the right person at the right time, it might be the right person, but it doesn't mean it won't feel uncanny or even uncomfortable at first. But overall, it looks like a very fortunate reunion overall in how it is that as a result of who you end up uncannily out of nowhere reconnecting with, either you welcome in greater healing or practical big opportunities, like bigger opportunities than you knew before. Gemini, career, social standing, and life purpose. Talk about opportunities you thought were gone, the career opportunities, the audition, the interview that didn't go well, that big chance that you thought you had and you missed it. These are the types of things that can come back around now, and they could be even better than they were before, whether it's a better experience for you or a bigger opportunity for you. So stay open, because Mercury retrograde likes to do things by happenstance, by synchronicity, by you not even thinking about it, and boom, there it is. It shows up. That's the kind of energy we have here. So stay open to possibility, because that connection, that contact, that unexpected reunion with a boss or former boss or person in position of authority could happen now, and it makes a big difference in an instant. Cancer, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. If it felt like your chance was gone to be in that place, or where it came to a legal matter, feeling like things weren't really going the way that you wanted, well, this energy can be very fortunate in helping you to revisit places and revisit spaces, or have those conversations again, or get another chance to negotiate a legal matter. And it's that much more likely to go in your favor this time around. So this energy is going to be with you for a solid 3 weeks at minimum, but will also be with you after the direct takes place. So this can be a very powerful period of time. Now, more personally, it can help you to examine more deeply your place in the world, philosophically or spiritually. And it could be a tradition or spiritual teachings that at one time did help you, but you might have let them go in some way. Well, your connection seems to reawaken to them now, and you feel that much more like you're able to magnify that sense of blessings and the peace that they gave you. Leo, profound change, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. In particular, this has to do with your relationship with financial institutions, loans, benefits you qualify for, even your credit cards as well. And so you can see how having a very fortunate Mercury retrograde season here can suggest revisiting loans, getting a better rate, paying off certain debt that you didn't realize you had paid off. These are the types of scenarios that can happen. Reapplying for benefits that maybe didn't work before, but this time it does. These are very blessed scenarios. Now, outside of this, though, this part of the sky has to do with going deeper within your psyche and appreciating how far you've come. Where it is you're engaged in a process of transformation, this is where you understand the inside job part of it and are able to really bring greater root to the changes that have been taking place for you. You might get another chance at a power move of some kind, however you understand it, however you wield it. Luck is very much on your side to securing that sense of power that you've been wanting. Virgo, partnership of all kinds, love is covered here. Now, breakups that happen with this Mercury retrograde tend to not stay broken up, but reconnections very possible, especially the uncanny, seemingly out of nowhere reunions that can happen at this time. Now, for all of that, if you're in an established bond, this can be a chance to understand each other that much more deeply, to revisit those things that might have felt like they connected you to each other that much more deeply, or to bring healing on those things that are past, but maybe the resentments are still there. Ultimately, a deeper understanding can be found. Now, if it is that you have tried to break up a few times, well, this might be a time when your motivation is different. And it could be that if you're trying it again, well, this is where it might stick. Libra, clients, customers, coworkers from the past, they have an uncanny way of popping up right about now, and they might bring opportunity into your life right about now as well. So those clients who might have been especially fortunate for you before, they could come back with even greater fortune, or the last person you expected to be fortunate for you, here they are, poof, in front of you. So that can be very exciting. But for all of that, these energies can be very powerful in how they help you to appreciate the power of your day. Habits you might have let go of that you knew were good for you, you might pick them up again now and very quickly start to feel a whole lot better as a result. Scorpio, romance, flirtation, and what the heart truly wants. Now, this is about people you might have dated before, maybe hung out with, maybe enjoyed their company briefly, and then it didn't seem to work out, or poof, they kind of went away. Well, those are the kind of people that can come back around under this energy. So it's not necessarily partnership energy, but it is fun energy. And so that can be a moment that feels uncanny. But look, this part of the sky also has to do with luck and windfalls, and a lucky break coming back around, very possible over the course of this larger transit. But it really is the stuff that seems to come out of nowhere that ends up helping you to feel that much more like a winner. Sagittarius, home, the past, your living situation, your family of origin. And this can be very powerful in terms of buying, selling, moving, attracting a new roommate. Now, be careful with that because contracts aren't always very fortunate with Mercury retrograde. And so if you're making those kinds of agreements, be careful. And yet, for all of that, this can be another chance at a place, an opportunity, a location you thought wasn't going to work out, didn't happen. Well, now it just might. And it feels that much more like a fortunate turnaround. Now, outside of that, home-based businesses can go exceptionally well, especially where it is that you're revisiting or picking up again certain opportunities that came and went. Now, they just might be even better than they were before. And really good news revisiting you related to a family member. Capricorn, siblings, cousins, neighbors, random reunions with these people, more time spent when you least expected it with these people. All of this becomes possible. And it might also be that there's just good news all around in their lives and you feel happy for them, especially where it comes to resolving matters that aren't brand new, might have been a little bit ongoing. But for all of that, this part of the sky also has to do with synchronicity in general, which can be very much on high. Now, do keep in mind this part of the sky having to do with communication. Yeah, Mercury retrograde communication can go wonky. It's that much more likely for you. But what I really like about this is that the communication that does go wonky, it's like you're seeing it more optimistically, and that just might work to your advantage. Aquarius, money you earn, money you spend, self-love and self-esteem. Well, normally Mercury retrograde isn't the best time to spend money because then Mercury goes direct and you realize, yeah, it isn't what you needed. It isn't what you wanted after all. However, this can be a very powerful time for sources of income to come back around in some way, whether that's people or situations. And so this can be a time when, yeah, it feels as if out of nowhere, those opportunities at prosperity you thought were gone, poof, they might come back. But for all of that, this can also be healthy self-love, healthy self-esteem, getting a big boost where you least expected it by something good that you thought was gone, perhaps a money-making opportunity, or outside of that as well, it comes back around and it affirms a healthy sense of self-value for you. Pisces, identity, who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. This is a very powerful, very fortunate Mercury retrograde season for you. Be careful about starting brand spanking new things, and yet it is a very powerful time for digging more deep into yourself to define who you are for yourself, but to define it in a way that's very fortunate, remembering who you are in a way that's more loving in ways that you might have forgotten. And once you do remember, it's as if your heart just wakes up and opens up in the process. Now, that can be opening up romantically, yes, but I think more likely it's about opening up to the joy of being you. Remembering some truth of you helps you to realize how fortunate you are to get the chance to live it.